Welcome to the Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee.
And I'm Randa, and together we are the Sake Sisters. For more information, check out our website at www.switchbladesistersocialclub.com or find us on Instagram and Facebook at Switchblade Sisters Social Club.
Thanks for listening. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast, Switchblade Sisters Social Club, a true crime podcast where two sisters exploit their worst fears for your entertainment. You're welcome. I'm Dee, and this is Randa.
Hi!
And we are the Safie Sisters. Our mother is so proud. Hi, sis.
Okay, so it's been a couple of weeks since we recorded an episode, so it feels like a long time.
I know. Really also recorded a really fun episode recently with the Wine Time girls.
Oh, do you know what? That was so much fun. And they have been so supportive.
Hi, Rachel. Hi, Heather.
Hi. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to do, and they're great storytellers too.
Yeah,
and I really like how they start their episodes.
Yeah, so we're gonna pinch it from them for this episode, aren't we?
Yeah, we're gonna pay homage to the Wine Time girls and start our episode this week the way they do.
So first of all, they start by asking each other what they're drinking. For me, sorry, boring coffee, but I'm fueled by it. So
for me, I've got a Pepsi, which I think the slogan should be "It's Pepsi." Is that okay? Because every time you go and order Coke from somewhere, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have that. We got Pepsi. Is that okay?" But
that's true. Always apologetically, huh?
Yeah, but you know
oh my
what?
God! Wait, on that note, have you watched the documentary on Netflix, Pepsi Where's My Jet?
No, never heard of it.
So good. It's because in the 90s, you remember when they were properly trying to kick off how cool Pepsi is, et cetera, and they had the Pepsi challenge where they would give people Pepsi and Coke and they had to guess which one was which or whatever.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
I feel like I'd be able to tell because I do not like Pepsi.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had their, the Pepsi points or whatever they were called, and you could save up for them for like a t-shirt or sunglasses or a jacket. It's when they had like Cindy Crawford as their model, and and one of the things they put in the advert as a kind of joke was that if you collected like 7 million of these tokens or whatever, you could get a jet, a fighter jet, and it was just it wasn't meant to be serious, and there was meant to be, how you have all the disclaimers at the bottom, terms and conditions apply, blah, 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 jet is not really offered, or whatever. They hadn't put any of this stuff, and so basically this young guy works out that it's much cheaper to buy X amount of bottles of Pepsi, and to hire warehouse space, and to pay for people to collect the coupons, and blah, 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 than to actually buy a fighter jet.
Oh my God.
And so it's just his journey of working all of this out, getting backing, because obviously he needs an investor, because you still have to buy 7 million bottles of cola or Pepsi, and but it's so good.
I haven't seen it. Is it on Netflix?
Netflix, watch it.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But you know what? Speaking of caffeine, me and Dee, a couple weeks ago, we had a little bit of work done. We had a little bit of
I can still do this.
This is as much as I can do. It's in my face. But while we were having a little bit of Botox here and there, I had a B12 shot, like a vitamin B12 shot, because I was told that it's gonna make you feel really like energetic and stuff. Well, it did not.
No, I know. I felt bad because I didn't realize you were getting that until you were actually there, and I didn't want to say in front of the ladies.
It's worth a shot. It was worth a shot. I was really hoping that it'd be like, Bradley Cooper in the film Limitless, where like, he takes some sort of pill and he's just super productive and gets 1,000,001 things done, and is super alert and like is his best self. Anyway, that didn't happen.
But you're supposed to take them like every 3 months or something as well, or every month. So maybe it's something that if you do it regularly, you feel a difference. Sorry, I'm just applying my lipstick because I noticed that I've got a little bit of a crooked Cupid's bow.
Hold on, I got a cough. Okay, cool. I'm done.
So part two.
So hold on. Wine Time Girls. So they start by talking about.
I was going to say part two of their intro.
Oh yeah.
That they then talk about what they're whining about. Go.
Oh yeah, well that was also my whine a little bit. That like I thought I was going to be really fucking energetic and full of beans, and I'm not. But that could also be because I don't sleep very much, and I've been awake since 3, so that could also be for that reason. But what else do I want to whine about? My list is really long. Oh god, yeah, another other thing. Do you know what? We've been doing a lot of Dee does a lot of video editing for the podcast, and I do the social media, and I just realized, oh my god, I'm so fucking unwatchable. Like when I watch the videos, I can't even make eye contact with myself normally. Like my eyes are all over the place, like, you know, those goats who are looking in 2 different directions.
Look, my wine is fucking this. I can't. Where's the line of my lips?
I don't know. Maybe we need to get those done too. Let's add that to the next list next time.
You know.
Oh, the other fucking thing. So anyone who's been following us on social media knows that I accidentally set fire to my passport, my naturalization certificates, my driver's license in the incinerator. I thought I was being clever by not shredding papers and being really efficient about it and just setting fire to it in all one go. Anyway, so I'm on week 5, still waiting for my passport. I have solicitors in 2 different countries chasing me for ID. I've got no other ID. And I've been calling and harassing His Majesty's Passport Office every single day. But you know what's annoying? They say like 10 weeks, right? But I spent almost £400 to renew all these documents, and they can't give you a delivery date. And it's like, we live in the day and age where we're used to next day delivery. We're used to one-click purchases, next fucking day delivery. Like, there's nowhere you order from where you spend that kind of money where the date is so open-ended and you can't get a delivery date. So that's another one of my whines this week.
I remember when because we only became British a couple of years ago. We've lived here since 1990, but we were here on Belgian passports. Fuck Brexit. When that
that's another thing I said to these people, like, you wouldn't be so understaffed maybe if Brexit never fucking happened and you had
you wouldn't have so many Europeans applying for British citizenship and so forth. Yeah. So really frustrating because now's not a time to build more walls and put up more barriers, but anyway, yeah, I remember at one point I had to prove my employment history, and it's like, prove my employment history to the government who have been taxing me the entire time and have it. Okay, fine. So basically getting documents from one department to give to another. And I thought I was being clever by going more than the 5 years because I wanted to be like, look, I've been here since I was fucking 7, working here since I was about 17. And if you want to get more longer than your more than 5 years employment history from the government, it takes something like 60 weeks.
Jesus, they make the whole system impossible because just to discourage people, you know. It's crazy.
I remember, I don't know if you remember, but I started applying as soon as the Brexit vote went through, so before Brexit actually came into play. But because it still is such a time of uncertainty, and you and we had absolutely no idea what that would mean for us living here as Europeans. Would we be taxed differently? Would we have different employment criteria? Would we
be able to use public services like the NHS?
Exactly. We just literally had no idea. Still properly don't have that much of an idea of what Brexit really fully is going to mean for everyone. So at that point, even though we never bothered before, we applied for our British citizenship. But when I was having my naturalization ceremony, so part of it is a really big, expensive fee and a test and a form, which in itself is harder than the test that you have.
Oh, yeah. I had to get Dee to do it for me. But I think they declined me twice. And by the 3rd time, I was like, Dee, I need you to fill these forms out for me.
Yeah. So, but my ceremony was mainly Europeans. Mainly Europeans becoming British. It wasn't, you know, and it's like, what a fucking load of extra red tape for a bunch of people who've just lived here happily, contributing to society, blah, blah, blah. Anyways. So, okay, Brexit is my wine, apparently, it turns out. But I also have another wine. Because we love our true crime documentaries. Some of them are better quality than others, although there's a big place for the sort of lower quality ones. And sometimes
Which ones are the lower quality ones? The Hey You ones?
Yeah, I guess the Hey You ones, you know, there's a whole bunch. I'm a big fan of Snapped. I actually genuinely like Snapped. Snapped isn't the worst one in terms of quality or whatever, but my wine is when sometimes the reconstruction videos or the little cut scenes they have, they feel over sexualized to me.
Ooh, okay.
Like it's always the woman in her underwear being attacked.
Ooh, do you know what? I haven't seen many of them because I'm not that into the Hey You documentaries because I don't like the reconstructions. It feels kind of cheesy, you know?
Yeah, that's it. It's the really cheesy ones. But like I said, and I think this is kind of being phased out, hopefully. But like when you watch the 90s ones or whatever, it's always a fucking woman in her underpants being attacked. And it's like, I'm sure that has happened many times, but I don't know. It just seems a bit gratuitous in the grossest way. So that's one of my wines. My other wine is about this little one. Look, I'm going to bring her into the picture. This is Lola.
Hi, what did you do?
I love her so much, but she costs me so much money. This is me kissing her on the head. Because this little one loves going into bushes, but she has this combination of loving to go into bushes and having big bulbous eyes. And as a result, yet again, Lola has scratched her eyeball. Another visit to the vet, 130 pounds later, have to do 8 different drops a day for the foreseeable. She hates eye drops. So funny. Eye drops kicks up a fucking fuss. It's just a little drop in the eye. But she, at the same time at the vet, I got there to have a little mani-pedi because she had a couple of back toenails that were a bit too long. Fine with that. Most dogs hate having their nails clipped. Lola's absolutely fine, but try to put a light in her eye and she's kicking off. Like, honestly, at one point I had to take off my jumper because I was working up such a sweat trying to hold her. Oh, so yeah, Lola and the upkeep of Lola is another wine, but she's worth it.
I do have good news though.
Oh, go on.
I got us a VA. And for those who don't know, a VA is a virtual assistant. So we're growing our team. A podcast, for those who don't know, is a whole operation. We started out just me and Dee, and then we quickly realized, wow, on top of full-time work, it's a lot.
On top of full-time work, making podcasts for other people.
Yeah. So, you know, it's a lot of work. So,
what's our VA's name?
It is the one and only Jamie. So she needs a proper introduction. So Jamie is one of my oldest friends and one of my
welcome to the
friends.
Switchblade Sluts, Jamie.
And the story of how we met is we met at sixth form college, and I saw her in assembly once, and she was wearing like all black clothes held together with safety pins and pink Converse, and I was like, "Yep." Oh, she had big, like curly blonde hair.
Oh, her hair is fabulous.
Yeah. Anyways, I saw her. I was like, I want to be her friend, and then I had to like accost her in the toilets a few times and try to convince her of friendship. she was a little prickly and hostile at first. Because I don't know, maybe approaching somebody in the toilet isn't the right way to make friends. I don't know. But that was when we were 16. It's 22 years later, and we're still besties.
Jamie.
Yeah, so this was back in the day. She also had this polyphonic ringtone. And, you know, people who are younger than millennials, and even the younger millennials, won't even know what the fuck that means. But that basically means you had a really fucking cool ringtone back in the day when people got, and it was the song
Do you remember when we had to type in the
song?
Yeah, you had to actually like play your keyboard to record the tone.
Kids don't even know they're fucking born these days, you know? And you know what? The whole millennial, the term, it bothers me because it kind of encompasses our age range. Like, we're old millennials. Yeah. But then people who were born in the 90s, who were born with internet and mobile phones. Like, we remember the days of no internet, no mobile phones when you had to read books and play with mud. You know?
Do you remember we got my first mobile phone I shared with our mother. Yeah. And it was super awkward because I tell my friends, please do not text messages were just coming in. You had to press each button X amount of times to get the letter. And I used to tell my friends, please do not send me messages unless you know I've literally got the phone in my hand, because otherwise my mum gets them, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember this one time. Do you remember?
Oh, God. No, I don't. Oh, God.
Oh, do you remember our dear friend Laura when we were at school?
Yeah. Oh, fuck. What did she do?
She texted me, but on our shared phone, while my mum had it, because my mum went out for a dinner. She texted that she thought she might be pregnant.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I don't remember that. Jesus.
So my mum came home and was like, handed me over the phone, was like, I think you need to call Laura.
Do you know what? Our mother, she is so tactful, so good. Like, she never invaded our privacy once. Like, I wouldn't, I am not that kind of parent. She really, like, very, I mean, you know, she was.
Yeah, good. I think that was soon after that I got my own phone. But yeah, it was good. But can you imagine these days sharing your mobile phone with your mother?
God, we were just so glad. I remember I was in sixth form when I got a phone for the first time, you know?
Yeah.
Don't know if I prefer life before or after, but I definitely wouldn't have a job now if we didn't have phones. Doing social media.
I know. I think that's one of the issues, isn't it, with like our generation? Like, we get it a lot with our dad. Not only are we kind of multi-hyphen, there's an amazing book called The Multi-Hyphen Method by Emma Gannon about people who have, especially when they're freelance, they do this and that, like we're writer, podcaster, editor, social media manager, etc. So it's no longer you're just a doctor or a lawyer or a shopkeeper, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have many strings to your bow, as David Brent would have said in The Office. But also a lot of our jobs are things that just didn't exist in our parents' time. So my dad, bless him, I'm trying to get him to fully understand what a podcast is. It's just not sinking in, which is weird because I feel like I explain it well, in that I explain it like it's Netflix but for audio, but with video sometimes. Hey, do you want to hear something fun?
What?
We just had notification come up from the Wine Time Girls.
I was just gonna say, Wine Time Girls, they just messaged us.
Oh, so they've sent a message saying we loved every second because we posted a picture. Oh, Wine Time Girls.
Do you know what? If you like us, you'll love them. So check them out. Also, do you know what? We do have exciting news.
Go on. I love how we give our news on the podcast. Is it news to me as well?
No.
Oh.
Me and Dee have been working really hard to prepare a course on podcasting. So for any of you who want to start a podcast, or if you've got a podcast already but you want to level up your skills, we have created a comprehensive online course which we are launching, not only about podcasting, but about how to do social media for podcasting as well, because obviously they work hand in hand, in tandem, like a symbiotic relationship.
Or like a dysfunctional codependent relationship.
Yeah. So,
hey, Rach, can you make your face bigger on the screen? Because, like, you're about 15%
really? Because
I
I look the same size as you to me.
Yeah, now you are, but yeah, just remember, you're the most interesting thing in the screen. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's much better.
Sorry.
Yeah, so check out our website for details of this course.
Click the link in our bio on social media, and it covers everything from how to design your cover art, how to write your show notes. We've got tasks in there for you to do. We share our favorite business tools. We literally walk you through, holding your hand on everything we do and how you can do it too.
Yeah. So if you've always wanted to start a podcast, felt a bit overwhelmed about everything that it's involved, or if you have a podcast but you feel like you're not hitting all the marks or doing all the steps well enough or at all, then we get it. We get it. I mean, we have a team now, as we say, the Switchblade Sluts. We've got Paul, our editor, and we've got Jamie, our VA, and of course, our momager.
Momager. Oh, she's like Kris Jenner Mark II, just only better. So much better.
Bless her. It's an honorary title. We so in order to be able to surprise each other with our topics, but to make sure that neither of us accidentally duplicates and picks a topic that the other one's already chosen and maybe researched but not presented yet. We send our topics to our mum, who tells us whether or not the other one is already going to cover them. So, yeah, that has earned her the title of Momager.
Yep.
So, all right, let's get into it. I'm so excited because we haven't recorded in so many weeks, and I just love that my Friday normally starts with me just getting a cup of coffee, hanging out with my dog, and listening to a story. So
let me tell you the fucking story.
By the way, let me tell you the fucking story. New tagline. I'm gonna make some merch with it, because going back and listening to all past episodes and stuff, you know, Paul does the editing, but because I'm a control freak, I have to listen to him before signing him off. You say it every episode that you present. Let me tell you the fucking story.
Do I say? Oh, Jesus. Oh, my God. Do you know what? I remember about 20 years ago, you got me a mug that said, "I don't give a shit." And I was like, why'd you get me this mug? Well, what the fuck is this? Like, I didn't understand the reference. Apparently, that's something I say a lot, too.
Also, your best advice that you give that I need to take on board more is, why do you even give a shit?
Do you know what, though?
That is useful life advice. I wasn't joking.
Do you know, honest to God, I have to credit our parents for that, because they say it much more articulately than that. But I remember on so many occasions, ever since we were kids, they'd always be like, "But why do you care?" Like when you'd be like, "Oh, that person has really good shoes, I want them too, but why do you care?" They always used to say, "Why do you care?" And our mother used to always be like, "But why do you want to be like them? Why don't you want to be different?" And we took that literally.
And then she was like, too much. Maybe you should care a bit more.
But you know what? Honestly, we were really brought up with the belief of not being preoccupied with what other people think of you. But you know what? I remember when I first started teaching, and I was and you know, when you're teaching, you're so under the microscope. You're observed, especially as a new teacher, every 6 weeks. And those observations really matter. And I remember like really being anxious about this. And our dad said, as long as you know you're doing the right thing, you don't have to care what other people think. And I, honest to fucking God, that was enlightening to me. And I remember it all the time. And I genuinely, because I know that I try not to act like an asshole or do anything that's not decent. That's another one of his life lessons. Always be decent. So even if someone's being a total fucking cunt to you, you can address it, but be decent about it. You know, like Michelle Obama always says, when they go low, you go high. So anyway, I think that's why we have that self-belief not to be preoccupied with what other people think, or to even let it enter your thoughts. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like what other people think about us, that's their fucking business. That's not our business. That's in their head. Yeah. It's not our problem, not our business.
Amazing. Yep, I agree. So tell me the fucking story then.
Okay. So, by the way, I have to apologize for the mess behind me. We record on Fridays and we try to fit in 2 episodes, and it's really, really tight to fit them in between dropping off the kids from school and then picking them up and having to put my face on, which is like 1 day a week that I do this on a Friday, and it's for our amazing listeners. So I did not factor in time for tidying the background, but I will for next time. Okay, so the story. So today I'm going to talk about, you actually suggested this one, so you do know the story.
Uh-huh. Wait, are you going to give me clues, or can I guess?
Okay, so it kind of continues a theme of Italian designers.
Versace.
Yes. So today we're talking about the murder of Gianni Versace.
Oh,
and it's a hell of a story. And honestly, it's literally like, it's like a Hollywood movie sort of story. You wouldn't believe it. You would like no.
It just keeps on going.
Yeah. Yeah. And to such a famous figure as well. It's crazy.
And another one of those that feels like at any point it starts becoming unnecessary, and that it could have been avoidable, or that there were warning signs.
Yeah.
Anyways,
you
go. I can't wait, because I am loving the idea of getting reacquainted with the details.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to hear a story that you know, but with more detail, huh? Mm-hmm. Okay, so Gianni Versace was an Italian designer, and he was a really famous designer, and he was living on Ocean Drive in Miami Beach. So he was living a nice life, and his murder happened in 1997. when he was 15 years old. And he was killed by a so-called deranged social climber in a cross-country killing spree that included 5 other murders. Like, this was not just one murder. This was a series of murders, cross-country. So, Gianni was killed by a guy called Andrew Cunanan, who started his killing spree nearly 3 months earlier in Minneapolis. He was on the police's 10 most wanted list. Gianni had a partner called Antonio D'Amico, who he lived with. And Cunanan, who's the killer, studied Gianni intensely, and he was a pathological liar. So he was the product of an extremely dysfunctional family and an abusive father who was materialistic and pretentious. I love to tell you the backstory because there's always a backstory, isn't there, with killers. Oh, sorry. So, Cunanan, his dad was a stockbroker who was accused of embezzlement, then sold the family home, taking the money back with him to his native home of the Philippines. And
I need you to sit up a bit because whatever filter you got is completely blurring out your chin. Can you put,
I don't have any filter on here. It's just dark.
Oh, okay.
No filter.
This is perfect.
I won't move. Okay.
Okay, good.
So Cunanan's father, he abandoned his wife and his son and moved back to his native home of the Philippines after being accused of embezzlement. And he took all the money back with him. So his son, Andrew Cunanan, followed his dad back to the Philippines and was horrified to find him living in a rundown motel. And he came back. So Cunanan was openly gay, but worried about his family's acceptance of him due to their religious views. He was described as being charming and having good looks and being smart. Again, something that we often find with serial killers. You know, you often hear them being described as charming, good looking, smart. That's how they know how to manipulate people. Especially when you think about, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, So Cunanan...
All the cult leaders.
Yeah, Ed Kemper. So Cunanan assumed lots of different personas. Like, what's the girl called? Something Devaney, the one that, the fake heiress.
Oh.
I forgot her name.
Anna.
And the Tinder swindler. Lots of different personas, when they were conning people. So he used to say he was a rich heir or that he was the son of the head of Mossad. He had absolutely no interest in a career of his own, so he chased wealthy men instead, and he actually did pretty well at doing that. So he moved to San Francisco in 1990, where he meets Versace, Gianni, for the first time. According to Gianni's partner, Antonio, this meeting never happened, though. Cunanan then turns against Gianni, saying that he hates him because he was so offended by that statement. So psychologists explained this as Cunanan turning his infatuation into hatred due to not being able to have the object of his obsession. So Versace at the time was working alongside his brother Santo and his sister Donatella. And Cunanan moves to San Diego and meets another rich man called Norman Blatchford. Because until now, Cunanan has managed to forge a luxury lifestyle by having rich partners. And he's given a car to drive by Norman, but Cunanan threatens to leave him unless he buys him a Mercedes. So Norman says, okay, go ahead. So Cunanan, in the meantime, also has a crystal meth habit. Surprise, surprise. And he hosts a goodbye dinner for himself before he leaves to Minneapolis to settle an alleged business matter. There he contacts a former Navy lieutenant he knew from San Diego called Jeffrey Trail, who Cunanan had a romantic interest in. He also meets up with a former boyfriend, David Madsen. Apparently, Cunanan had suspicions that Jeffrey and David were a couple, and he was jealous about this. So this is where the killing spree began on the 27th of April, 1997. So on this date, Jeffrey agrees to meet Cunanan at David's flat, where Cunanan is waiting alone. Within seconds...
Wait. Remind me who the people are. Jeffrey is...
So, Jeffrey, this is the Navy lieutenant, the former Navy lieutenant that Cunanan had an interest in.
Yeah. And who's the other guy?
And David is the former boyfriend.
Okay. And he
And
thinks that they're together.
Yeah. So, on the 27th of April, 1997, Jeffrey agrees to meet Cunanan at David's flat, where Cunanan is waiting alone. Within seconds of opening the door, Cunanan strikes him with a hammer to the head multiple times to the face and to the back of the head. This is his first murder. Cunanan then wraps Jeffrey's body in a rug and pushes him to the side. And one of Jeffrey's friends becomes worried when Jeffrey doesn't show up to meet him, so he calls police and tells them Jeffrey was going to meet Cunanan. Then, on the 3rd of May, 6 days later, David, so this is Cunanan's former boyfriend, body is discovered at a lake outside the city, shot 3 times. So within 6 days, Cunanan has killed both people, David and Jeffrey. So this sparked widespread panic in the gay community, and investigators wanted the media to report that it was a gay man killing other gay men, because weirdly, the media was actually trying to be culturally sensitive about reporting this at the time. But this was a key factor in helping police determine what he would do next and who his potential victim patterns would be. So Cunanan steals David's red Jeep Cherokee and drives to Chicago to 72-year-old real estate developer Lee Miglin. So on May the 4th, Lee is attacked in his garage where his throat is slit with a gardening saw. And Cunanan also cracked his ribs. He was stabbed multiple times with a screwdriver. His feet were bound with electrical tape. Cunanan then backed up over him with a car. So these were, his murders were, he was stepping up his murders.
Literally overkill, right?
Yeah. So before the murder, Cunanan had been in Lee's home, had some food, had a shave, stolen some clothes, and stolen Lee's Lexus and gold coins too. So he is an opportunist as well as a killer. We know he's an opportunist because he goes for rich men. So all the murders were happening so fast that it didn't give police enough time to examine and work out what was happening, or by whom, or to even predict what was going to happen next. So the police, however, were able to track him based on the pings received on mobile phone towers from the built-in car phone from Lee's Lexus. Mm-hmm.
Oh, clever.
I know you love this. You love this, huh? You love anything to do with CCTV and surveillance.
I do. And shout out to Colin Sutton, my love, who also
this goes back to our second episode on Levi Belfield, where CCTV helped to solve those crimes. So this information is released to the media, and Cunanan changes his course and knows he's being followed. So he detours to Finns Point National Cemetery in Pennsville, New Jersey. Using a gun stolen from Jeffrey, he takes the caretaker, William Reese, the caretaker of the cemetery, into the basement, kills him execution style just to steal his truck and flee. And yeah, I know that
just feels over the top.
Like he's living in his own movie, huh?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like the whole thing is like, honestly, it would make an amazing Hollywood film because it's just unreal.
Well, they have made a dramatization of it. It is really good. I can't remember what channel.
So Cunanan left loads of clues in Lee's car that he dumped about where he had been and what he was going to do. So then Cunanan begins driving to Florida, and he's taken the cemetery caretaker's truck. So now he's in the cemetery caretaker's truck. And that poor guy was killed literally for his truck. Another senseless murder. So while Gianni is in Milan, Cunanan makes his way from New Jersey to Florida. And he detours in South Carolina to change license plates using stolen plates. And the guy whose plates he stole thought they dropped off and were not stolen, so he didn't even report the crime. He just thought they fell off. So that would have helped.
Both of his plates. Have you ever had a license plate fall off, let alone both of them at the same time?
Maybe he didn't want to go to police for other reasons.
I think that's more likely. He didn't want to be involved with the police, but yeah.
So Cunanan finally arrives in South Beach and takes up residency at the Normandy Plaza Hotel, which is a bit of a dive. And he brazenly parks his stolen truck outside the hotel. Interestingly, South Beach, where Gianni lived, he used to walk around freely, which worried his family, seeing as he was worth, at this time, $800 million. So he was a big name already.
Yeah, and exactly, I was going to say, at this time, he was like everywhere. He was well known. He was recognizable. He was a celebrity.
Yeah. Yeah. So his family were already worried about him, you know, walking around without bodyguards. But he didn't want a big fuss about him, and he really liked his life in Miami and the freedom that he had. So back to Cunanan, he quickly runs out of money because he spends it on crack and cocaine, so he turns to sex work. He doesn't go out during the day, and he keeps his curtains drawn. And at this time, he continues to read about himself in the news, so he is following the press. He's always a step ahead. So, the police believe Cunanan was in Florida for about a month prior to the murder of Gianni. And Cunanan was able to hide in plain sight somehow in Florida, but he appears on TV show America's Most Wanted. So the employees at Miami Subs, which is a restaurant, see the show and call the police when Cunanan shows up at the restaurant. By the time
they've clearly got his face from somewhere then.
Yeah. So by this point, they know who they're looking for. But by the time the police arrive, Cunanan is gone. So one day, Gianni leaves his front door to go buy his usual newspaper, which he does daily. So usually he would go with his partner Antonio, but that morning he woke up earlier and went alone. So at around 8:45, Gianni walks back 3 blocks to his house, reaches to unlock the gate, and he has no idea that Cunanan is waiting for him. So Cunanan boldly walks up behind him and shoots him in the head twice. Antonio heard the shot and says his heart stopped beating. And Gianni's chef called the police, and a friend runs after the shooter, who is Cunanan. And Cunanan runs into a parking lot to the top and can see a bird's eye view of what's happening and where the police are. So Cunanan runs back down to street level and gets into a taxi. So in the hours after the murder, police barricade the area, locking down, the whole site. There were a lot of rumors swirling around after the murder. One was that it was the mafia because there was a dead bird on the scene. Apparently, that's some
like
sort of mafia.
The horse's head.
Yeah.
Dead bird.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but this theory was quickly dismissed, and forensics worked out that the dead bird was on account of bullet fragments from the gunshot. So
he shot a bird as well?
Yeah, so a bird was collateral damage.
Oh.
Yeah. So at 2:30, just hours after the shooting, police realize it's Cunanan who is responsible. Because William Reese, the caretaker, remember William Reese?
The one he killed for his truck?
Yeah. His red truck is found in the parking lot with Cunanan's clothes outside of the truck, because he quickly got changed before fleeing into a taxi. This guy's fucking smart and he's slippery. And that's what I find so scary. You know?
Yeah, and this is like in the 90s, so well before we were more generally aware of like forensics.
Yeah. And that's what scares me, is when people use their smarts for evil. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a pawn shop owner comes forward to tell police that she has a pawn slip with Cunanan's name on it. He was not that fucking smart. After he pawned Lee's gold coin. So remember Lee Miglin, the one that he
killed in the garage, ran over with his car.
Yeah.
Lexus.
Yes. The hotel owner comes forward saying Cunanan was staying there under the name Kurt Demars from Paris and had very white teeth and was right-handed. So leads, which is very specific information, leads start now pouring into the police hotline. In the meantime, tourists are flocking to the site of Gianni's house, which actually, do you know what? They've turned it into a hotel. I saw it on the Real Housewives of Miami. I mean, it's beautiful. It's one of those houses where, where there's like the open air courtyard, It's like what you would imagine Gianni Versace's living on Miami Beach. That's exactly what it looks like. But yeah, it's a hotel. And I don't know that I'd want to stay there.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, because we had this conversation about murder houses, huh?
I mean, effectively, it's a fucking murder house. Do you know what I mean? It's just a fancy one. That's what it is. You call a spade, it's a murder house.
It is. It is.
That being said, I think Gianni would be the kind of guy who would understand, the entrepreneurial spirit behind that decision to turn his house into a hotel.
Do we know if it's still owned by the family or is it?
Oh, I bet it is. I assumed it was.
Yeah, who knows?
I assumed it was, but yeah. So I mean, I can't even imagine what it costs to stay there. But I don't know. I just feel like
yes, I feel like it's the budget that might eliminate us from staying there rather than any kind of moral or spooky vibe thing.
Oh, so, you know, it's not even a moral thing. It's just
No.
I don't think I could get away from the fact that someone was murdered there.
I hope it is his partner's property now, and that his partner is able to honor Gianni and still live in the house that they lived in together. That's my hope.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't even do that. I mean, I guess he's not living there because it's a hotel, huh?
He might be living on, I don't know.
Let's look into that. Let me do some better podcast research in future.
Yeah. Look, you know what? Look, Jamie,
Jamie, can you get on that, please? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jamie.
Jamie
Rush job.
So it's still unknown why he put his real name and address on the pawn slip. You know, for a guy who was really calculated and calculating and used a fake name at the hotel, it's weird that he used his real name in the pawn shop.
Maybe they just asked for his ID. You know, it's funny, isn't it? It's like going back to the Levi Belfield, who had like 42 aliases and 20 different phones and several different cars and addresses linked to him. And then he called up the police himself to report his neighbor and gave his actual genuine phone number.
Yeah, but the police at this stage thought that he wanted to be known and that it was a bold and arrogant move. You know, because I guess sometimes they know their time is coming, their time's running out, and I don't know, there must be some sort of arrogance with a lot of killings.
If you're an egomaniac and you want to be having people saying your name and be notorious.
So then one day, the caretaker who's looking after an empty houseboat, because it was somebody's second home, so he was looking after it while it was vacant, he goes there on the 23rd of July. And remember, all this started on the 17th of April. And he noticed a few odd things. Curtains were drawn and the lights were on. So he draws his gun and hears a gunshot. So officers surround the houseboat and the standoff is broadcast live. The police tried to call the house phone, but Cunanan didn't pick up. They fired tear gas into the houseboat and storm it to search every inch of it. And then they find the dead body of an adult male. And detectives confirm it's Cunanan. He used the same gun to kill himself as he used to kill all his other victims, except for Lee, who had his throat slit. And the manhunt lasted for 8 days after Gianni was murdered. So, God, I mean, do you know what? What was interesting about each of the 5 murders is that they were each individual distinct crimes with different motives, you know?
Yeah, I was going to say, what pushed him over the edge into murder in the first place?
Do you know what? It sounds like he had scores to settle, and this was his last hurrah. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's sort of, when I think about, did he mean to kill himself at the end of it? Did he mean to commit all the murders? Did he commit one and then got on a roll? But it sounds like he... I don't know, if I were to theorize, I'm not a psychologist by any means, is that he knew the end result was going to be his death and he thought, fuck it, I'm going to take the people out that are on my shit list. That's what I think.
But why was he thinking the end was near? Because, to be honest, up until that point, he had a cushy life. He was like...
He was living baby. He was... exactly. He had a lot of sugar daddies. But... he also clearly had mental health issues. He'd worked a lot of his life in sex work, which I can't imagine what that does to you. Issues of abandonment from his dad. A drug problem. I mean, meth is no joke. So, you know, there's clearly...
Is it just that? Was it like some kind of psychotic break that led to it, maybe?
I mean, I would say probably. Probably that. But...
because he didn't seem to have any, like, violent... crimes in the run-up to it
that we're aware of, because as we know,
and he definitely would have been a victim of abuse if he's in the gay sex world during the 80s, 90s. Like, that was not a nice time for gay men, especially working.
Exactly. So that's it. I feel like there's a lot of a backstory that would be interesting to know about. You know, a lot of a backstory that would be interesting to know about his, you know, I'm always interested in what got them to that place. You know, we know about his, you know, we can't find out that much about his mother. I did look into that because I'm always interested in, you know, the upbringing, what the fuck happened. You know, we know his dad was a dodgy character and abandoned them. We know he got into sex work, but the only one of the murders that was planned out was Gianni's.
Oh, he planned that one?
Yeah. So that was the one. Because it started with Antonio, the boyfriend, saying that, and Gianni's boyfriend saying that they had never met, that he'd never met Gianni. That got him angry. And that's what sparked everything off. So
can you move your phone? Because every time it goes off, it's really loud.
Oh, sorry. It's because it's in a metal holder.
Yeah.
So there are really a lot of unanswered questions because of Cunanan's suicide, you know, but it would have been fascinating to hear
interview
from him. Exactly. To interview him. You
know, that would be a tough job. That would be a Mindhunter type job because that guy, I can imagine the bullshit that would come out of his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
Like there would be a lot of sifting through to find some truths, right?
And and apparently there's a theory, you know, the police had a theory that, you know, he committed suicide because he wanted to remain a mystery. He wanted it to be a sensationalized story.
Yeah.
And you know what? Yeah. I mean, he really scripted a sensationalist story, didn't he?
He really did. I mean, you couldn't write a better plot.
Yeah, you know what? When I look back on the episodes we've done, one of the most gruesome was the Lululemon murders because of the torture.
Yeah.
But this one, in terms of the
audacity.
Yeah. And just the storyline, if you can call it that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the manhunt and the, you know, how long it lasted, the 3-month killing spree. You know,
I might have to make another timeline for this one because it's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
I haven't made a timeline image for a while.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, every story fascinates me. You know, Larry Jean Bell, that's one that haunts me. You know, Levi Bellfield, that's one that haunts me. But this one, the story and the storyline and the media sensation, and he wanted to be a celebrity, you know?
Yeah. And he
wanted to be infamous. Yeah.
Well, I mean, killing a celebrity makes you temporarily pretty much as famous as that celebrity for 15 minutes, you know, because everyone who's invested in that celebrity now knows your name too. But
you know what? I would have loved to have some sort of psychological dissection of what was going on through his mind, you know, and what the psychology is what interests me most about all these stories, you know. And the nature versus nurture question, that's the question that we talk about every episode, you know.
It was just so sad when the news came out. And also, again, 90s, there weren't as many openly gay celebrities as there are now. Obviously in the fashion world, it's always been a bit more forward with that.
And Gianni was at his peak, you know. This is someone who's at his peak. It was, I think also what scared people is that they thought, wow, a celebrity can be killed. If a celebrity can be killed, then
no one's safe.
Yeah. If they're not even protected, you know. And it's every case, like, there's always a part of us that is affected because of the way it could affect us. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, that's why Levi Bellfield and Larry Jean Bell scares me, because it's like crimes, you know, towards women, you know, and girls and
sisters.
Yeah, exactly. You can relate to it somehow. Yeah. But with this one, I think part of it is that they thought, you know, if celebrities aren't protected, then who the fuck is, you know? Someone with worth 800 million, you know?
800 million.
And it's at the time when, do you remember Jill Danda was shot on her doorstep, which was 5 minutes from from where I live in Fulham. Yeah. You know, the news presenter who was really famous at the time. She was killed on her doorstep. And, you know, that was also during the 90s. And I think probably even the same year, it was in the sort of mid to late 90s that happened. And yeah.
Yeah.
I actually can't think since of a celebrity being murdered. I'm sure it has happened since then, but I remember those were big ones.
I'm smirking.
Oh.
Because.
Is it coming?
Well, I have a proposition.
Mm-hmm.
Because we seem to have done this very quickly.
We have.
So how about a 2-for-1 for our listeners?
Because
I was debating between two cases today, and I was a bit worried because one of them's a little bit short, but maybe if we're doing a 2-for-1.
Oh.
What do you think?
Yeah, let's roll it into one.
And it follows on nicely from your point there about you not being able to remember.
Is it a celebrity?
Yeah.
Fuck. Tell me. Drop the clues. Let me guess.
You're not going to guess, because when I say celebrity, it's not like she was super famous, but 100% we know her because we grew up with her. So she's British.
Mm-hmm.
On a TV show when we used to watch it a lot. Guess TV shows.
Guess
British
TV show?
Yeah, guess.
Oh, can I have a clue?
Okay,
because all I'm thinking is Round the Twist.
Okay, I'll tell you the TV show. EastEnders.
Oh shit! Who?
She was a secondary character, but one of my favorite at the time.
Who?
She was Zoe's friend.
Who the fuck was Zoe?
Kat's sister. Kat Slater's sister. Remember
okay,
Zoe?
Yeah,
long, fabulous hair. And she had this little feisty friend called Carrie.
Oh, I vaguely remember. Was she blonde?
Let me prompt
Oh my
your
gosh.
memory.
I don't think I remember any of this story.
Sorry, I have actually this ties in so glad. I'm so happy we're doing this bumper one, because I had a whole other podcast episode that I wanted to cover in this season, and I couldn't because we filled in all our slots. But now I can do the extra one as well. All right. Sorry, I wasn't prepared yet but I got a couple of pictures, so let me share them with you. You will remember her.
Will I?
As soon as I show you the screen. She went out with what was Dean Gaffney's name on fucking
Robbie. Oh, I don't remember her at all. Honestly?
Just pretend you remember her.
Oh my god, yes!
Now I don't know if you're pretending or not, but whatever. So, her name is Gemma McCluskie.
Okay. So,
my main source of info for this one was an episode of Crimes That Shook Britain, which is a really, really, really good show. The one, I think this one's going to shock you because I don't think you know anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you, as we established, kind of remember the person. But basically, on the 1st of March, 2001, a young woman goes missing in East London. And that young woman is 29-year-old Gemma McCluskie, who you might remember as Carrie from EastEnders.
God. Do you know what? Honestly, I don't remember this at all.
I know.
I don't remember it at all.
Because she'd fallen out of the public eye at the time of the murder. I think that was part of it. I nearly covered this case when we did the bonus episode with the Wine Time Girls, because it truly is a parent's worst nightmare. So. Oh
God. Oh no. Do you know what? I don't remember it at all. And I don't know if it's just because I missed it or because it didn't get enough coverage. Not every story gets the same level of coverage. I don't remember
it being in the media in the same way as some of the others, which is odd. So she was in EastEnders, a show that is loved worldwide. She was one of Zoe's friends, and I always thought that Zoe was kind of like a bit of a wet blanket character, and the times that they tried to show her have a bit more personality came across a bit. I don't know. I wasn't a Zoe fan, but I loved her spunky friend Carrie, who kind of was more fun and helped Zoe come out of her shell more. And she was always seen as like the little bit of a troublemaker, and so forth. And she had a really weird relationship with Robbie at one point. But Gemma McCluskie, her real name, she was living with her mother and her brother Tony. She was very close with her dad as well, and her older brother Danny. Her dad was called Anthony. So Gemma's mum had a serious illness, and Gemma was her sole carer. So that's tough. I wonder if that had something to do with her maybe not pursuing the acting as much. Because she could have gone on. She could have done a lot after her stint in EastEnders. She went missing on the 1st of March 2012. She was missing for a couple of days, and her family and friends started getting worried and more concerned. Danny, who was her older brother, who she didn't live with, got in touch with the club on Kingsland Road where she worked, so she was working in a club, and found out that she had also missed work without informing them, and no one could contact her. So at this point, they're getting really worried. Her friends in particular were worried because she had some problems at home because of her brother Tony's addiction to skunk. There were loads of arguments, and both Gemma and their mother wanted him out of the house if he didn't stop smoking. These problems seemed to escalate when Pauline, their mother, was in hospital. So she would have, because of her illness, and I couldn't find what her illness was, but because of her illness, the mother, Pauline, had stints in hospital, and that left Gemma and her brother Tony at home alone. And those times, Gemma felt like she was in charge of the household. You know, she was their mother's sole carer. I think she was the older sibling. And I'm guessing Tony resented this and didn't like being told what to do, et cetera, et cetera. And both the mum and Gemma had problems with him smoking a lot and smoking in the house. The dad asked Tony if there had been any arguments around the time that Gemma disappeared. Tony confessed that he fell asleep while running a bath, and it flooded the hallway, and he and Gemma had argued about that. Their relationship had also been violent in the past, and friends thought that she might have tried to escape the violence and gone on a break. But they all felt that she would have told someone she was doing this. She had done it before, where she'd gone and stayed a night at friends and so forth. And because she was the sole carer of her mom, it felt really, really unlike her to just disappear for days on end without telling anyone. Her friends went out looking. They put flyers out. They put appeals on social media.
At this point, were the police involved?
Yes, they reported her. All this time, the friends described Tony, the brother, as blasé, in quotation marks.
Oh God. I'm really hoping it's not the brother. Oh God, okay.
Danny, the older brother, the one who wasn't living with them, was much more involved in the search and seemed much more concerned and worried. Then Saturday, the 3rd of March, so 2 days after she went missing, they reported it to the police. Tony and Danny and a friend went along to the police station. The police were interested in talking to Tony because, in theory, he was the last person to have seen Gemma before she disappeared. But he gave changing answers. And we know this is a huge red flag. For example, when he was asked what time he last saw her, he claims because he was high, he couldn't remember. But we know how suspicious this looks, and this is. Friends at this point started contacting newspapers to put appeals in, using the fact that she used to be in Eastenders to try to get a bit more interest and a bit more coverage. Good for them. I would do absolutely everything, you know. Anything to help find their friend. It was really heartbreaking, especially watching the documentary and reading interviews with friends and stuff, because she was clearly so loved, you know. And it's tragic when anyone disappears and is murdered, but you know, you could really feel the loss. A search party was put together on Monday, the 5th of March. Remember, she went missing on the 1st. They start looking around Shoreditch and Bethnal Green, where she lived and where she worked and where she used to hang out. Tony said he would stay in the house in case there were any phone calls or in case she turned up, which to me still sounds fairly sensible. Doesn't sound that odd to me just yet, that you would have someone stay at home in case.
Mm-hmm.
Except everyone said that that at the same time the other brother was much more emotional, much more worried, and Tony just came across as cool and calm and not that concerned. Now, we know everyone reacts differently to these situations, so you can't judge too much. And if you haven't been in that situation, but at the same time, the police have to judge, and they also found it very strange. And then apparently, when Tony found out that the son was going to be at the search and covering the search, he turned up. I don't know why he's such a fanboy of the Sun. I know you and I fucking hate the Sun. It's one of the trashiest newspapers out there.
God, you can't even call it a newspaper.
No, I mean, if your friend went missing, you'd still want them covering it because the more coverage, the better, I suppose. But yeah, for some reason, this sparked Tony's interest and got him out to sort of be in the front line.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the Sun a bit more, there's loads of scandals around it. Their coverage of different cases, such as the Hillsborough disaster, which was a horrible footballing incident.
Oh, God. It's banned. The newspaper is banned in all of Liverpool, isn't it, because of that?
Yeah. There was a sort of, I don't know the full details, a bit of a rioting incident and stadium collapse and so forth. And the Sun made up a whole bunch of lies, proven to be lies now, about how it was the fans' fault and not a security issue and a crowd control issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, really disgusting because loads of people died there and the families were outraged by it. So anyways, the Sun being there got him out of the house and involved in the search. Tuesday, the 6th of March, 5 days after Gemma had gone missing, at around 2:30 p.m., a lady on a boat on the Regent's Canal, which is a canal that goes through London. She was at Acton Dock, which, by the way, is near Bethnal Green, East London, and not Acton, West London.
I was gonna ask, yeah.
I know, because I looked at it on a map and was like, she was doing whatever weird shit you do when you're on a barge and you're going through the locks and the weirs. I don't know if you've ever done this, but like, I will never understand.
Takes ages, doesn't it?
Takes ages. I have no idea how they know how to do this, but I'm always super impressed by it. But yeah, so the up and down water level, blah, blah, blah thing. It's like magic to me, but she's in one of these locks. She sees a suitcase and her boat bumped against it.
Oh God, in a suitcase.
Yes, there's another suitcase in a body. Body in a suitcase. It popped open and a torso popped out.
Oh no. He dismembered her too? For fuck's sake.
I actually didn't know when I started covering this case that it would be another body in the suitcase.
Oh my God. Do you know, honestly, it makes it worse that she's in a suitcase, and obviously even worse that she was dismembered. It just makes it, to a family member.
If you want to know more about specifically cases of bodies in a suitcase, go back and check out our episode on it, because it's a very specific kind of crime with a very specific kind of disposal of the murder victims. And it reveals a lot about the person who's committed the crime. And I'll go into that a bit more later. So they found parts of the body, they found the torso, and obviously friends and family are anxious to find who it is, and hopefully that it is not their dear friend, Gemma. The dad actually said in the documentary that he instantly suspected his son. Can you imagine?
Oh, what made him say that?
Well, I suppose this previous history of arguments and violence between the two. They did identify the body as Gemma because of her tattoo. She had a specific tattoo on her lower back. And then later on, they confirmed it when they did DNA. They compared the DNA to the DNA from her toothbrush.
So the lady on the barge opened the suitcase.
Her boat bumped the suitcase and it opened the suitcase and the torso came out. The family are desperate to find the rest of her, and they decided not to hold any kind of burial or cremation until they could have her entire body reunited, which I understand that. So they couldn't lay her to rest until they found the remains, her full remains. At this point, the police focus more on her relationship with her brother Tony. The dad says that Tony was always jealous of Gemma's success. She was obviously very well known for her role in Eastenders, especially living in the East End of London. She had also appeared in other TV shows. She was very well liked. She was described as popular, as loud. I know it's wrong in my mind because she's an actress, but I imagine her being very much like her character, Carrie.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I actually think that about a lot of EastEnders actors and actresses. Yeah. I remember meeting, is it Mickey Miller? No, not Mickey Miller. The dad, whoever the dad was. You know, the Miller family. He's like in his 50s or 60s. The unemployed dad.
Rich, is that your phone?
Yeah, sorry, I move it. Yes, I remember meeting the dad from the Miller, Keith Miller. Yeah, Keith Miller, because when I worked in a guitar shop, he came in and he was exactly like his character. Like there was no acting involved in his role there. He was exactly like his character. And then do you remember Janine Butcher? She lives around Chiswick or Brentford, and I remember seeing her in the post office. And okay, obviously they sound like their characters, but she really sounds like her character. Yeah. And like, you know, Patsy Palmer, whenever you see her on TV, she's just like Bianca Jackson. So not sure a lot of these are like Randa trained actors. I think they really have. This show, although it's popular, it's dog shit, isn't it? Let's be honest. Oh, it's a terrible fucking show. And I actually stopped watching it because I was like, it's so miserable and depressing.
I know. You know, when you're like, oh, I don't want to watch another show of people struggling to afford their rent. And
yeah, it's so miserable and depressing. And it's not too, it really
it's
actually.
Just real life. Do you know what I mean?
I was just going to say, it's an accurate depiction of the East End. I actually only enjoyed it. Do you remember when Martin Kemp from Spandau Ballet was in it?
Oh,
that's the only good era. Oh, and the Mitchell brothers, they were good. Again, don't think they were acting.
Yeah. So I imagine her very much like her character Carrie, because Carrie was loudmouthed. She was a little troublemaker, but she was really cute and endearing, and everyone liked her, you know. So this is how I imagine Gemma to be. Obviously, I know that she was acting, and that is her character. But at the same time, the dad says that Tony, the brother who lived with Gemma, who she had issues with, he had let himself go. He describes Tony as smelly. He would hardly ever wash. He was introverted. He was smoking a lot of cannabis. And the type of cannabis he was smoking, as I mentioned, was skunk, which is a super strong, intense form of cannabis. And as we are familiar.
From back in the day.
From back in the day. So I wanted to do a bit of research into this. So basically, whereas cannabis will normally have between 3 and 4% THC, which is the active ingredient, skunk will have 16%. So that is up to like more than 4 times sometimes the amount of THC. And he was reported to sometimes be smoking 15 to 20 joints a day.
Jesus, no wonder he was, you know,
that's a huge amount. Now,
did his brain even still work after that?
So I'm super for legalizing cannabis. I
will never understand why it's okay for people to drink alcohol. Yeah, because I've not seen. Okay, this is like a case where somebody is smoking a lot of weed and has committed a serious crime. But I'm more afraid of a drunk than a stoner. I'll be honest. As a woman,
100%.
I've never been harassed by someone stoned. However, I have, back in the days of going out more, being harassed by drunk people, you know?
Yeah. Back in the day, every time you went out, you were going to get some kind of unwanted attention. Harassment.
Probably still now. I just don't go out, but I'm sure it's still the case now. But I don't understand it, because to me, a drunk person is dangerous, and I would not want to be around a drunk man I didn't know. Yeah. Whereas a stoned person, if they're chilled out, I'm less afraid of them, you know?
So this is not perhaps the best case to support legalizing cannabis, but kind of it is, because in a world where cannabis is legalized and you can access it easily, then you wouldn't have to resort to necessarily getting shitty kinds or stronger kinds or whatever. I don't know. But this guy is obviously an extreme case. Smoking 15 to 20 joints a day, that is unheard.
I'm surprised he's even awake during the day.
Right? Exactly. But this amount of this kind of potent cannabis can alter your behavior in that it can lead you to be more suspicious, more paranoid, hear voices, and have delusions. So actually very similar symptoms to schizophrenia. Friends had reported that there had been an escalation of arguments between Gemma and Tony, and I will say that the violence went both ways. They were happening more and more, and they were becoming more and more physically aggressive. But Gemma and Pauline had actually reported problems to the local authority. And Tony had, at least on one occasion, gone to strangle Gemma.
Do you know what?
And we covered this.
Yes, we did. Yeah, that if you get strangled by somebody attempts to strangle you, the chances of them killing you, I can't remember the stats, but
yeah, I mean, it's not
the chance of them actually killing you after that first attempt of strangulation, are high.
As we learned in previous episodes on bodies in suitcases, a forensic psychologist got involved and stated again that dismemberment usually takes place at the location of the homicide, which is usually the home of the victim or the perpetrator or both. So the fact that a victim has been dismembered, and if you manage to find out where this has taken place, it can either guide you to where this has taken place or guide you to who might be the attacker. So that's why it's super important to have a real understanding of the psychology behind these specific kinds of body disposal. And when a dismemberment occurs, it's quite often committed by someone who knows the victim. So again, very, very big clues as to who might be the perpetrator. So because we can take from this that the killer is probably someone who knew her and that she was probably murdered in her home or the home of the killer. So let's go back and look at the last days of her life. Gemma woke up on the 1st of March to an overflowing bathtub. Remember? Tony confessed that he had fallen asleep while running a bath. She had an argument with her brother about this, and then she went to Royal London Hospital in Whitechapel because she was going to go there to film the opening ceremony of a new wing there. After that, she went to a friend's house for about half an hour. While she was there, she got a call from Tony and they argued on the phone again. She said she was disappointed in him, and her friend whose house she was at could hear that he was shouting at her down the phone. At 1:17 p.m., she left her friend's house and went home. She called Tony a couple of times. They checked her phone records, so obviously they know what went down. She had called Tony a couple of times. He didn't answer apart from an 8-second call at around 1:47 p.m. At 1:50 p.m., CCTV caught Gemma's car arriving back to her street. And then at 2:08 p.m., 18 minutes later, her phone was switched off. And police suspect that it is between these two times that she died. So 10 to 2. So
he switched her phone off. And why would he do that?
So between 10 to 2, when she arrived back to her street, and 2:08, when her phone was switched off. That's the time frame that they think that she got murdered in. So now police want to talk to Tony again because they've narrowed down the time that she was at home. And the time that she's probably got murdered, because they suspect that it's the person who murdered her who switched off her phone. But this time they're talking to Tony with a bit more suspicion. They remember his first interview where he gave a couple of versions of events, and then the specific last time that he spoke to Gemma. For example, he said at one point that he spoke to her between 2:30 and 3 p.m., which they no longer think is true. And then on Wednesday, the 7th of March, so a week after she went missing, Tony was arrested and interrogated. But this time, unlike the first time he was talking to the police, he answered no comment to everything. Now, it's his legal right to do this. He's not obliged to answer the police or to talk to the police, but it is very strange and makes him look very suspicious, especially seeing as this is his sister, because you would think he would want to give any information possible to help them find the murderer of his sister. But again, You don't know what you're going to do in different situations. But if he was innocent, to remove suspicion from himself so they could go on and focus on the investigation to find the real killer, you would have thought he'd be a bit more helpful.
Mm-hmm.
His phone records show that the next day, the 2nd of March, the day after Gemma went missing, he texted Gemma asking her to call and asking her what she was doing for dinner. He also texted his girlfriend, he texted his mother, etc., just like everything was normal. And that evening, the day after Gemma went missing, he went to a local mini cab company near his house. He had a big, chunky bag.
Oh.
He gave them the name of Tom and asked for a taxi. So they found this from doing sort of,
Oh God, was the suitcase with her body in the house?
The taxi was actually parked around the back where there was CCTV coverage. So there's footage of Tony putting his big bag and struggling to get it into the boot of the taxi.
And at what point did he dismember the fucking body and nobody in the family saw this?
In the house. So he lives with a mum, but the mum at this point was in hospital for a hospital stay.
Okay.
So they found the taxi. They tested it and found Gemma's blood in the taxi. That taxi had taken Tony to Dunstan Road, which is near Regent Canal. He got the bag out of the boot of the car and headed towards Acton Lock, which, if you remember, is where the suitcase with the torso was found.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at this point, I did question, why would you dump the body in a canal and not just in the River Thames? Because it feels like all these locks and stuff are problematic, and
there would be more opportunity that it would be found.
But maybe it's because like the paths along the locks are quieter or so forth, but I don't know. I hate putting myself in the mind of a murderer, so I just found it weird. There was also a witness who was on her balcony at the time who saw a man dragging a huge bag along the canal at this time. On the 10th of March, 3 days after he was arrested and about 10 days after Gemma disappeared, we now know that it was murder and Tony is charged for this. Divers at this point are still looking in the canal because they still haven't found all the parts of her body. Police showed the family footage of Tony struggling with the suitcase at the back of the taxi cab company, and the family confirmed that this was Tony, even though he gave the taxi company a fake name of Tom, which why would you do if you're just going on an innocent little journey? Tony talked to his dad, and he said that Gemma was angry, kicking him, not kicking him, but trying to kick him out of the house. He claimed he was at the top of the stairs and she came up the stairs with a knife in her hands. But the dad was unconvinced. He knew that Gemma could be feisty and stand her ground in an argument, but grabbing a knife and approaching someone with it was just not like her. But at this point, the police still need more evidence to be able to convict Tony. They did a forensic search of the house that Gemma and Tony lived in, and they found hardly anything at all. But we did learn in the Bodies in a Suitcase episode that actually, it's horrible to say, but a murder and a dismemberment of a body might not be as messy as you imagine it.
I know. I was going to bring that up because like when you see it on TV, like I'm watching on Netflix with I can't remember the actor's name, but Joe Goldberg, this character, and Dexter. When you see it on TV, it looks so messy. But I remember that from the Bodies in a Suitcase episode we did, that it's not, which is weird.
Mm-hmm. Because they are deceased when the dismemberment happens, so actually there's not the blood flowing in the same way, and obviously things get over dramatized for TV to make it more of a spectacle, if that's the right word. They did find 2 or 3 spots in the bathroom, which to me doesn't seem that unusual, like spots of Gemma's blood, between like shaving and periods and so forth. There was also some blood on a kitchen knife, which again could be explained away. Like maybe she cut herself on the knife and went to the bathroom to clean up, like a couple of drops of blood in your own house, But here's the key. They found a tiny amount of body matter. That is material that has come from the inside of Gemma's body. Mm-hmm. And that is a little bit harder to explain away. They found this on the cabinet in the bathroom. Sorry, it's an intense one, isn't it?
So that's where he dismembered her, in the bathroom.
Seems like. The day after Gemma disappeared, there's footage of Tony going and buying more bin bags. It's really creepy because he also buys a packet of fags and a newspaper, just like it's a normal day. Now, at this point, we still have divers doing fingertip search of the canal bed, and they had loads of canal workers and operatives agreeing to keep an eye out.
Sorry, fingertips search of the canal bed to see if they got her fingertips.
No, like they're doing a fingertip search.
Oh,
like,
okay,
you know, literally getting in there with their hands, searching the entire
wow.
canal bed, because they still have body parts missing, and they want to find her and
Mm-hmm.
clues and so forth.
Is there a reason that he split up the body parts, or is it just because it wouldn't fit in the suitcase?
Probably to dispose of the body, fit it in a suitcase and dispose of it. They had lots of canal workers and operatives agreeing to keep an eye out and look for anything suspicious. And the family were still waiting to hold on. They were waiting for any kind of funeral because they wanted her body complete in order to do that. Soon they find more packages wrapped in heavy-duty bin bags containing more parts of Gemma's body. They suspect that the decomposition of these body parts had produced gases, which then lifted the bags up. Remember, we talked about this, air pockets within the dismembered body parts. The sad thing is, well, every part of this is really sad, but a really sad fact is that it actually took months to find her head. They only found her head on the 9th of March, 9th of September 2012. So that's about 6 months after she was murdered. And they were holding off on a funeral until this moment. But they found it. They were draining the Kingsland Basin, probably, I think, routinely for some maintenance or for cleaning or something. And they found a bag, and this bag was found to contain her head. But now, finally, 6 months later, the family could put Gemma McCluskie to rest. They can also tell from finding the head, they could tell a little bit more about what happened, because Tony is still not giving up much. In finding of her head, they're able to see that she had blunt force trauma, possibly from an ashtray or some heavy object, and that she'd been struck at least twice. She probably died from a bleed to the brain. The following year, on the 14th of January 2013, at the Old Bailey in London, Tony's trial starts. His defense is that he couldn't remember any of it. He claims that he didn't remember killing her. He didn't remember any part of dismemberment or disposal of the body.
So is that what his solicitors advised him to say?
I don't know. But, you know, he's got a reputation of smoking a lot of skunk. I don't know whether they thought this was your only chance of getting a decreased sentence. It's highly unlikely he did all of this cover-up while being totally out of his mind, though. He's claiming he was so stoned he didn't remember, yet he was able to capably dismember a body.
Yeah, exactly.
Go and get a taxi, have the wit about him to use a false name. I mean, I'm not saying he was a criminal genius, but it's unlikely. You can see from the CCTV footage and the text messages that he sent to his girlfriend, his mum, to Gemma, that he was clearly trying to cover his tracks. An expert was actually brought to the trial, and they said that this amnesia excuse was absolute bullshit. So then, January of 2013, Tony was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years. We can still only speculate what happened because sadly Gemma is dead and Tony is standing by this I don't remember bullshit. We don't know if he meant to kill her, if it was premeditated, if it was intentional, if it was an argument that spiraled out of control. But we do know that when Gemma was struck on the head and was clearly in distress and dying, rather than call for help or report it, Tony instead chose to cover it up in the most heinous way. To this day, Tony still denies any memory. You just can't help feeling for the family. This is what I meant about it being a parent's nightmare. Not only have they lost a daughter, but their son committed it.
Yeah.
The dad that lost a daughter and at the hands of his son, he features in the episode that I mentioned of Crimes That Shook Britain, and it's heartbreaking. The dad actually said for a long time afterwards that he was still standing by his son. He said he didn't want to lose two children, which I don't understand it. Obviously, I've never been in that situation. but that seems really incredibly noble of this man. They sent regular letters to each other, but in the end, it just got to Anthony, the dad, that Tony was showing absolutely no signs of remorse because he was sticking to this amnesia defense. But I just think, even if you're saying, I'm sorry, I don't remember it, you could still be like, I'm sorry I did it, though, even though I don't remember it. So really, this poor family, what they've gone through.
Oh,
so,
God.
In the end, even Anthony cut off his son, and they have had no contact for years. Gemma's mum sadly passed away in 2013, so only the year after Gemma was murdered. So that's the story of Gemma McCluskie.
Joe, the whole thing is so sad. Like, she was her mother's carer. Like, there's so many sad elements to the story. Like, her mother obviously has some sort of chronic illness or disability. You know, she lost her daughter. You know, oh God, and parents lost 2 kids. Fucking awful. And do you know what else? Like, obviously murder is just the worst crime, but then you know what makes it just is sickening is like then dismembering a body and putting it in disposing it in a suitcase is just another level of degradation. Isn't even the word, but
yeah,
awful.
Yeah. It's horrendous. So this poor girl, this poor family, her friends, like I said, when you watch the documentary, it's heartbreaking. But that's a horrible story itself.
So Jesus Christ, right? Another
But just a little tangent that I went on, it's not the only EastEnders crime.
No.
Which isn't surprising because EastEnders has been going on for like nearly 40 years. It started in the year of our Randa, 1985.
Oh.
And has had obviously a whole host of actors over the years. So it's not surprising that there have been some that have been caught up with the law. They're not all murders, but there's a really, really sad story of Sean Blake, who played Frankie Pierre for a year between 1996 and 1997, which I don't really remember her in it.
No, I don't. I don't remember the name.
Yeah, but I feel like that was the time we used to watch it. But anyways, yeah, this is a horrible story because she went missing with her 2 young sons, Zachary and Amon, 8 and 4.
No.
Her disappearance was reported by her partner, Arthur Simpson Kent, who also went missing several days later. Police searched the family home and found the bodies of the actress and her 2 children buried in the garden. And her partner, Simpson Kent, was later arrested in Ghana, extradited back to the UK, where he was charged with the triple murder.
Oh my God, I don't remember this at all.
He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to life in prison in October 2016.
When did that happen? In 2016, okay.
2015 is 2016, I think, is when they went missing, and then 2016.
How did I miss these stories? Jesus.
I don't know.
Oh my God, I hate this. So that's a case of family annihilation, isn't it?
Yeah, it's horrendous.
Why did he do it?
I don't know. Maybe we'll cover it one day. This one was just terrifying. You remember Peter Beale when we used to watch EastEnders? Peter Beale, Ian's son, when he was like a tiny little blonde-haired, innocent little boy. That actor, Joseph Shade, was accused of abusing a number of young girls.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Sorry, is this episode on fucked up EastEnders stories?
Well,
Jesus, I just
thought I'd touch on some. I don't know why.
Oh my God.
He left the show and became a youth worker, and it was in that capacity that he was sexually abusing young girls, asking for nude pictures and sex, groping some of them. He pleaded guilty to 11 charges against girls aged 13 to 17, and he was handed an 18-month prison sentence, which was suspended for 2 years and ordered to sign a sex offenders register. So he's on the sex offenders register, but has served no jail time. It's crazy.
No jail time. Jesus Christ.
Okay, and then we have, of course, you will remember this one, Dirty Den.
Oh God, what's he done? Again, another person who in real life is as dodgy
I know. I mean,
character.
His character was just one of the characters that made the show.
But he was a villain.
He was a villain, yeah, but he was in it right from the start, and then he came back in later years, and the character is absolutely amazing in that he is evil,
so
manipulative. Exactly, yeah. Well, so before he was even
what was Angie thinking?
Angie, I know.
She could have done better.
Well, before he even got the role in the first place, he had served 10 years behind bars for killing a taxi driver in Germany.
Oh,
so he was already...
What? I never knew that.
Yeah.
I never knew that. How did he get the job?
I don't know, but it was only after the show launched that it came out. So I don't know whether they didn't know.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. In 1966, his name, by the way, is Leslie Grantham.
There was some sort of sex scandal, wasn't there?
So 1966, he attempted to rob a man at gunpoint, and the victim died after being shot in the head. So this was the taxi driver in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie Grantham claims that it was an accident, but I mean, you had a gun and you were pointing it at him, so you maybe didn't intend to shoot him, but you kind of made it happen.
Yeah.
So he was in prison for a year. He was released in 1977. 1985, EastEnders launches, and he's Dirty Den. Then he came back to the show in 2003, and it was a great time for the show. That was the period that I was watching it. It was really, really good. But then he was caught up in a sex scandal because he was doing webcam stuff. So, I mean, this I feel like it feels entrapment and not the worst thing anyone's ever done.
Was it? What did he do anything illegal, or he was just being pervy online? Oh, he's being pervy online. Okay,
you know what I mean. It was an undercover.
It's the
reporter.
least of the crimes we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Was she not underage at least?
No. It was an undercover reporter of age. He knew that they were of age, and he was masturbating in his dressing room, which I think is one of the main problems that EastEnders had with it, because you kind of don't really want your actors doing that on set. But yeah, he was masturbating on a webcam to a person.
Well, it's
over
no
the legal
surprise.
distance, so
it's no surprise that Dirty Den is a dirty old man. I mean, it is, he's gross. It's the least of the fucking crimes we talk about here. And it's the least of his crimes too, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to be honest, I don't even feel like that's a crime. I could totally understand why you might lose your job over doing that at work.
But you know what? Honestly, it supports my theory that EastEnders actors are not acting. They've literally fucking hired people from the East End. Did they have a budget issue at the BBC or something?
Or whether they want like the authenticity, and so they, like you say, they want proper East End people.
Because honestly, when you see EastEnders actor, except for Pat Butcher, isn't she posh in real life?
I don't know.
I keep hearing that. I keep hearing that she's posh in real life. If that's the case, she's a really good actress. But Peggy Mitchell, same in real life. Ross Kemp, same in real life. The one I met, Keith Miller, fucking same in real life. Janine Butcher, same in real life. Patsy Palmer, same in real life. Are any of these people actors, or are they just literally like EastEnders they found?
I know, yeah. They're like, find a character, find a person, build a character around them.
Actually, my sister-in-law's friend's son, his baby mama is the daughter.
You've lost me.
Okay, so my sister-in-law, someone she knows, someone they know, son, his baby mama is the daughter of Keith Miller's wife.
That was my EastEnders crime tour.
Do you know what? Honestly, I stopped watching it wait, when was it? Like 10, 15 years ago. Because honestly, I started to find the show depressing. Like, I loved Kat Slater, great actress. I loved, what's his name? Something Richie. Her husband in the show. The one whose son we used to go to school with.
Oh,
Shane Ritchie.
Shane
Ritchie, good character. Although he wasn't good to his wife, Colleen Nolan, when they were together. Kat Slater, Shane Ritchie, Peggy Mitchell was great, Pat Butcher great, and then suddenly it just got fucking depressing, and you're literally just watching like
Yeah, I remember
Depressing people
I
on TV.
made the conscious decision to stop when I got back from holiday.
And I couldn't catch up. I remember that too. Got back from a holiday.
And I just thought,
I can't ever catch up.
If I watch, because it was a 2-week holiday, so it's like if I watch fucking 10 hours of EastEnders, or however much it would have been, I will never catch up, and I can't imagine anything that will cancel my holiday feeling as quickly as watching that much EastEnders.
Do you know what? It's so funny because that's how I stopped watching too. I think it was 2011 or something, and I got back from holiday and I thought, I'm literally never going to catch up on this. I don't have enough hours in the day to ever catch up on what I've missed, so I'll just cut this habit here and just, you know. And it's funny because I had like a year later, I remember, like, I was like, oh, I gotta leave teaching because I've just got so many books to mark that I'm never going to catch up, and I might as well just like quit now because I'm never going to catch up. I think I have that sort of logic that I apply to other things too.
It's like any habit. You have to make a conscious decision to end it, right?
Yeah, but I remember literally the year after, that must have been my like life advice I was giving to myself at that era, because I remember just like, I've got so many books to catch up on marking. It's never going to happen. I'll just use this opportunity to resign. It took me another 7 years to leave teaching, but don't think I ever caught up on those books.
Do you know what? Just yesterday, I turned on the TV and EastEnders was on, and it was Sharon Mitchell in a wedding dress with over a dead body, and I was like, oh, I bet
that's why I don't watch it anymore.
I know, honestly. But I was like, I bet that's a good storyline.
But do you know what? Sharon Mitchell.
Oh no, I will tell you another decision I made. Another decision towards quitting watching it. It was when Sharon Mitchell and Kat Slater, their baby storyline. Do you remember when one of the babies died and the other one?
Oh yeah, dark.
Sharon's baby died. This isn't a spoiler because I'm talking about 50
years. Yeah, that's dark. Daniela Westbrook, fucking same in real life.
Yeah, Sharon, she was on the list of EastEnders crimes or whatever, but I don't think she's, apart from doing illegal drugs, I don't think she's ever really committed a crime. Bless her.
Honestly, it's a seriously depressing show. Like, there's nothing, you know, this
it's really good. It's really good.
Oh, I don't know. Do you know what? I don't know. You know what? Other than true crime documentaries, I watch The Real Housewives because you know what? I from that moment, I just decided I don't want to watch miserable people on TV anymore. I want escapism. I want to watch like amazing thing. I want to watch pleasant stuff on TV. There's enough misery in the world, and also, like, we live in London. The same reason I don't watch Made in Chelsea, because those people live down the road. Those people are like everyday people that we know, you know? Like, there's nothing mysterious or interesting about them. They're literally just overprivileged, spoiled Chelsea kids.
This was our 2-for-1 episode. That was fun, wasn't it?
Well, do you know what? At the end of every episode, I have to acclimatize, reacclimatize, readjust, regulate myself, cleanse the palate, because it's always, you know, is it always pleasant? No.
No. Do we know why we do it? Not entirely.
No.
Does it give us nightmares? Yes.
Yes, it does. And you know what? At the end of every episode, I'm like, why are we talking about one of our other interests? The Real Housewives. If this podcast were to have any other theme, it would be one of three things I could talk about, or I would. Real Housewives. I've pretty much seen every season of every city except for Dallas. Not into it. Why? What were you going to say?
So you're always asked. We're trying to figure out how to end an episode on a bit of a lighter note. I've got a mission for you. I think you should end each episode with your favorite quote of the week from one of the Real Housewives. I feel like it'd be very easy for you to do.
I just watched New Jersey the other day, and I can't. I'm trying to think. They always have arguments. New Jersey's one of my favorite.
Because I know that they can come out with some zingers. So
they always do. Okay, well, right. I'll try to save some. Or do you know what? These are things I could talk about till the cows come home. Real Housewives. Autism. Talk about it. It's my special interest. Number 3, social media and business. Those are the 3 things. In fact, I can't talk about it. True crime, obviously. Can't talk about anything else. I do not have.
It's literally true crime and Palestine.
Yeah, I don't have Yeah, Palestine too, I guess. I mean,
my tagline on my website now is true crime, Palestine, and leftist wines.
Yeah, it is a great tagline. It is. But you know what? Honestly, I can't talk about anything else. If somebody talks about anything else, I have no interest. I'm just entertained. I'm humoring them. Humoring them,
So
being polite.
now you know how to start a conversation with us. We've given you the topics. Yeah.
No, you know what? We love our listeners. We love our listeners.
We know our listeners love true crime at the very least, so we'll have something.
I can't do big talk. I can't. I'm here for it.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we will call it a day and go and cleanse ourselves with bleach. Do you want to say goodbye? All right. Bye.
Love you. Bye. Hey there. Thanks for being a loyal listener.
Do you need a new website or want to boost your social media performance? Or do you hate podcast editing? You've tried optimizing your website and social media channels, but you're still not getting the listeners, downloads, and engagement you want?
We, the Versace sisters, love helping people with tasks that they hate. We know a thing or two about podcasts, websites, and social media, and we love working with other podcasters and business owners.
So why not head over to switchbladesisterssocialclub.com and go to our Work With Us section. We believe in collaboration over competition. A rising tide raises all ships.
Bye!